shows for oh so long. Every summer in your favorite bar, we're determined to keep going strong. Nothing in the world can stop our song.
So whether you have season tickets or saw a show with friends,
We have the info and the scoop on all the latest trends. Gather around, we won't be a bore. We promise to have you coming back for more. In the meantime, we'll say what we mean.
Welcome back to In the Meantime with John Saunders. I'm John Saunders, and this is In the Meantime. And yes, I still have no idea what I'm doing. This week's episode, we're going to check out part 2 of my interview with the hysterical George Dvorsky. We got some amazing feedback on the first interview, and we can't wait for you to check out the second. Just like last week, all of George's donations, when you donate to the Bright Future Fund, will go to Project ALS. And I have another request this week. Is there any way you guys would mind clicking like, share, and maybe subscribe to our YouTube channel? Apparently this is a really good thing, and it will be really, really helpful for the theater. So thank you for doing that. And away we go. Enjoy In the Meantime with George Dvorsky 2.0.
Wow. And then,
What page are we on now? Okay,
I don't know, like 2000. So, and then now, what year are we in is the real question. What year?
Now we're up to 97.
97. All right, so we're entering Pimpernel Land.
Yes, they were auditioning Pimpernel. I didn't get an audition for the original show. Didn't get seen. And I got called. They rehearsed for 4 weeks. I got called the last week of rehearsal to come and audition for the standby.
Okay.
I went and auditioned. They hired me. I started rehearsals, and I was told that there was an internal cover, so I didn't have to learn it right away. They said, take your time and make sure you're secure with everything. I'm looking around going, there's nobody who can play this role here.
Right.
Come to find out, they didn't have an understudy.
Oh.
So I had 1 hour of rehearsal with the assistant musical director to put all of my music on tape.
Okay.
Tape back then, folks.
Yeah.
And my little cassette recorder listening to my music.
I had one. It was awesome.
So I learned that. Well, we went right into tech rehearsals at the Minskoff. So I would stand up in the balcony, because I don't know if, for your audience, the difference between a standby and an understudy is in the show and bumps up when someone's out. A standby, you're standing by for the star. You're only on that stage when the star's out.
Yep.
I actually hired my friend Maureen Moore, who I'd mentioned before I did Kicks with. She's a brilliant actress, and she has stood by for Bernadette Peters in Gypsy and Song and Dance. She's the standby of the year back in those days. So I hired her to coach me through the script. So on my off time, she and I would work on the script.
Uh-huh.
We finished on a Friday coaching. The first preview was the Thursday night before.
Okay.
So we did the first preview. I finished my rehearsal with Maureen, my private rehearsal that I paid for. Because up to this point, all I had official rehearsal was with an hour with the musical director and then watching. That's all I did. We got through Friday night, 2 shows Saturday, Sunday. Douglas starts to feel a little tired in his voice. On Tuesday afternoon, I get a phone call, you're going on tonight. I said, I've never been on that stage. It's okay. We're not going to do a put-in rehearsal. Because, and I didn't know this at the time, I could have refused to go on.
Right.
Because they had to teach me an abbreviated sword fight.
Okay.
So the 3 hours that would have been used for my put-in was used to learn a smaller sword fight that we put in that night. So I went on a $10 million musical on my shoulders. I never had the costumes on, never had the wig on, never saw the people on the stage, never sang the songs with the orchestra. Short of walking out in front of a bus, there's nothing I'd be afraid to do right now.
Oh my God.
Because I just kept turning the page in my head. Oh, and Christine Andreas, who I adore, she played Marguerite.
Yep.
She asked if she could run our scenes at 7:30 on stage. So that was the only rehearsal I had on stage, was running the few scenes that we had, which weren't many because the whole show's about them being apart.
Right, right.
So I went on and did Tuesday night. I remember my entrance, I had to put my hand out and say Marguerite St. Just. And I thought, why am I not shaking? That was going through my head as I'm singing the opening song, going, just keep turning the page. So in my head, I'm turning the page. The show ends. The curtain comes down. I feel this thing hit me. It's Peter Hunt, who was the director, who hugged me and said, I don't know how the hell you did that.
Oh my God.
I went into my dressing room, fell on the floor, and cried for 20 minutes.
I'm sure.
No, I never pulled her in, but her tenderness was everywhere. Oh, she slipped beneath my skin, just as if she'd always been right there. Has she been there all along? Was I too far gone to know?
And you did it, notebook in hand. You just went out and just did it.
I knew the lines, I knew the lyrics, and I knew the notes. I didn't bump into anybody. I didn't know the blocking. I was trying to, I mirrored it watching from the balcony. So I was just thinking, I think he goes here. And they were very kind. People kind of take me by the arm, push, and I thought, okay, great.
Shoving.
I was on both shows Wednesday.
Uh-huh.
Disaster.
Right.
Because my adrenaline, I started to relax.
Yeah.
I was bumping into furniture, singing wrong lyrics.
Oh my God.
Okay, so I was on those 3 shows. They preview for a month. Opening, I don't go back on. I don't have a rehearsal. The show's now changing. The show's changing every day, so they can't rehearse me.
Right.
Again, I'm sitting there watching it. Opening night, Douglas says to me, I hope I get through this. And I thought, Lord, please let him not go out half mid-show. He got through it. Because you never left the stage. When you were off the stage in Pimpernel, you were changing your clothes, running to the other side of the stage with your dresser, them throwing you water, going on. You never left the stage. Yeah. And you had to sing 10 songs that were high. It was a tenor roll.
That is a big, gigantic sing. I mean, it's unbelievable.
So opening night, he gets sick. I then go on the entire next week.
Oh, wow.
So I had some of the other outer critics reviewed me.
Oh.
Thank God I saved my own butt, because I had to basically then do a new show the show I had done 3 weeks before that totally changed.
Different. Yeah.
So I had my first official rehearsal after my 11th performance.
Oh, wow. Because technically they don't have to rehearse you until after opening, right? And isn't that a rule where, like, if you don't, I think maybe it wasn't a rule then, but like if they don't get you a rehearsal, you are allowed to go on with your book.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I thought I gotta be Superman. And thank God I hired Maureen Moore, who saved my life, because I knew enough of the script and knew the character that I could get through the rest of it.
Going back a little bit to your, like, when you step in for the principal, how nice that is when you kind of step into their salaries. That has happened to me before, where I've stepped into someone's role for a weekend in Dallas, where I too was very excited, very thankful for the power negotiating of my of the fellow that I understudied, you, in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
That's where we met.
It is where we met. I completely forgot about that how that went. I don't know. I just spaced it out. And when I got paid, I was like, oh God, like I was like, sweet.
Well, because my nephew was getting married and I knew, and I was going to sing at the wedding. I said, I have to be at this wedding. And they said, we'll give you that weekend off. So you knew way ahead of time.
I did. Thank God. It was great. Yeah.
You were going on.
But still, even with all the rehearsal, it's still nothing gets you ready for the first time on. You still feel like you're having an out-of-body experience.
It is the most what we do. The fact that we do this is just the most bizarre thing.
Yeah.
Because it's like you torture yourself, and for what?
I know. And I've understudied a lot, and I've, especially on the road, and you suddenly are in front of thousands of people and you're like, holy crap, I can't believe I have to do this right now.
With Pimpernel, because I was on so often, it got to the point, because Douglas was brilliant.
Yeah.
He created that role. And one thing he does better than anybody I know is ad-lib. His ad-libs would the show was 10 minutes longer sometimes because of he would just riff, and he was brilliant at it. I couldn't do that.
Right.
But what happened was the cast learned 2 different shows.
Sure.
So it was just nice that I got so comfortable going on twice a week, because I love the repetition of a run.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a good understudy because I like to have the repetition of doing it every night.
Right. Right.
And
Where
it
it's
got
just
after, doing 100 in that year, I was comfortable enough that I could really enjoy it once it got going. And that cast was just so great for doing, because he and I were so different, but they adapted to both of it. It was great.
It's so cool.
It was a wonderful year.
I mean, your career is crazy. I mean, we haven't even talked about like just the amount of concert work and albums that you've done and all this, just, I don't know, just your whole career in general is just amazing. Now,
Thank you.
let's talk about how you ended up at the Mac-Haydn.
Well, Mac-Haydn, I was out in Oklahoma doing a little night music.
Right.
I'm playing Frederick.
If she'd only been faded, if she'd only been fat, if she'd only been jaded or bursting with chat, if she'd only been perfectly awful, it would have been wonderful.
And you called and said, you've played Harold and Full Monty? I said, yeah, I have. He said, would you come do it at my theater? I said, what? And I knew you had talked about Mac-Haydn,
Yeah.
but I'd never been there, so I didn't know much about it. And I thought, well, let me look. And I had those 3 weeks free. And you said, well, come up and do it. Well, Matthew Cypress, who was the company manager at Lyric Theater of Oklahoma, had done Hello Dolly with Monica Wemmick.
Okay.
So when I said to him, I'm going to go do Monty at this theater, he said, I think that's where Monica Wemmick is. So I came in knowing you and knowing who Monica was. So I kind of felt like with this one, because sometimes going into a brand new theater and brand new, and so I was a little nervous about it, thinking of, brand new thing. And plus getting naked in front of all those people.
Yeah.
So, and Monica tells a story about the first day of rehearsal, because Matthew said to her, I can't believe you're going to work with George, blah, blah, blah. She wanted to be so cool and come up and, because she played my wife, she sat in the chair next to me and it fell to the floor.
Yeah. That's a classic Monica.
So she and I just howled. So that was my first experience there.
Let go, bring it up now, let go. You just tell me when you think you're ready.
Obviously, we're not the Minskoff, but what was your impression of the theater when you first got here? Do you remember?
Yes, I thought it was so odd that there was a rectangular building in the round.
Mm-hmm.
I remember getting home, I said, I've never seen anything like this. There are 10 rows on one side and 3 rows on the other side.
Right. It's the weirdest space.
But what I will say, the intimacy is so perfect there.
Yeah.
And it just brings the audience to you and you to the audience. And I loved doing that show there.
Yeah.
And doing the Full Monty, the 6 guys have to bond because of why you have to bond.
Yeah.
And it was just such a wonderful experience.
Yeah, you guys were
every
awesome.
minute of it, even the night that they thought that the lights came down a little too slow. And the guys didn't care. Like, who cares?
Yeah, at that point, you guys were running around nude for weeks.
And the audience didn't know the difference. The audience thought that's what it was supposed to be. It was the cast standing in the aisles that went,
right.
That's what made us go, what happened?
Right.
And they were all freaking out. And the 6 of us went down to the Mexican place at the
Destino.
And we went, it happens.
Right. Well, then the next thing was your Berkshire Theater Award winning performance as Daddy Warbucks and Annie.
And oddly enough, I was back out at the Lyric Theater of Oklahoma.
Okay.
Doing Hello Dolly.
How crazy.
And Daryl Blackburn called and said, you've played Warbucks, right? I said, yes, 4 times. He said, I'm supposed to do it the Mac-Haydn.
Mm-hmm.
I got another job. I don't want to turn it down till I have someone I can say to John, here's who should replace me.
Right.
So I said, I'm available. I'd love to. I love that show. And because I had done it 4 times before, you and I could play.
Oh, it was so good.
And you directed it so beautifully in for that space and just brought some freshness to it.
I was in awe of how you were with the girls too. And I remember when you came to me and you said, "Hey John, let's let the girls shave my head live on YouTube, on Facebook." And it was just so funny. Those girls loved you. And I think, I don't know, there's something like, it was so nice to have that like built-in chemistry with you and the kids. You were so good with the kids that, like, you know, especially the Annies, you know, they were.
I think that's what makes it work. You've got to have that love especially between Warbucks and Annie.
Definitely.
They've got to love each other, because and especially in a space like the Mac-Haydn, if you don't feel that, you have no show.
And then we saw you, of course, last year in Little Shop, and you were just incredible too.
Well, thank you, but may I tell that story?
Yes, you can.
So I have a house in the Poconos I'm selling, but I was out there trying to get it ready to be photographed for the sale.
Yeah.
And I get this text from John Saunders. "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm at my house." "How would you like to be eaten by a plant?" And I said, "John, I'm a little long in the tooth for the dentist." And he wrote, "No." And I thought, I am a 6'4" Catholic boy.
You're perfect.
But I had so much fun.
So fun. And you were so funny. So funny.
Thank you. But
I remember you said, "You're like, can I do this?" I was like, "Yes, you can do this. Get over here."
Well, because what you said to me, this is what sold me. John Saunders, your artistic director at the Mac-Haydn, says, "I think it'd be hysterical to see your long legs sticking out of that plant."
Yeah, right? You put the money in the plant. How am I supposed to get it? Just, knock. Knock? Oh, God! Sure. Seymour, is it? Seymour? No! Seymour! No! Seymour!
And it was.
And that's what I thought. But that's what you said. That I thought, okay, what the heck? It was fun. Because I remember seeing, because I was in New York, I saw the original show at the WPA Theater, which was 100 seats.
Yep.
And because of was Alan's first big thing.
Yeah.
That was he and Howard Ashman. That's when they got their Disney contracts from that show.
Yeah.
And I because I knew the musical director, I was there for all that, so I loved it, and I couldn't wait to do it.
Is that the first time you've done it? Was last year? Cool.
I'll probably never do it again.
Don't say that. You never know.
Yeah.
Oh,
He'll
man.
get his mushnick. Let's call George Dvorsky. He's a great one.
He's a great mushnick.
And now, a word from our president. Paul Colarusso, our board president, currently quarantining in New York City, is here once again to answer our burning questions. Paul, as Phase 2 has begun in New York City, what has been the best thing so far that you've done?
Haircut.
Gee, your hair looks terrific. Thank you, Paulie.
I remember asking our dear friend Elizabeth Ward Land one day. I walked by your dressing room a few times and I saw you doing these things, and I was like, I didn't want to ask. I was like, I don't know what he's doing in there. So finally I said, "Do you have any idea what George is doing?" I said, "Every time I go in there, he's like huddled over and he's doing this thing. He's doing something." She goes, "He's making snowflakes." I said, "Wait." And then I finally barged right into your dressing room and I was like, "George, talk to me about these snowflakes. Do you remember those snowflakes you made?"
It's paper quilling.
It's unbelievable. So cool.
And I learned to do it because of the other hobby, which I know you want to talk about, but I made a nativity set out of paper, quilled paper. So with this kit came other kits, and you could so they're Christmas ornaments, because we were in Appleton, Wisconsin, the week before Christmas.
Yeah.
We Chitty Chitty Bang Bang opened in November. I was making them as Christmas gifts, so that's
Oh, they were
what I
so cool. But it was each little, I mean, how many pieces of paper were in one snowflake?
oh geez, hundreds, sometimes
Hundreds. You were
hundreds.
rolling each little
You
thing.
use a pin, and there's long strips of paper, and you roll them on a pin to make
Yeah.
cone, and then you make different designs with this cone of paper.
Yeah, I was just fascinated by, and then of course I was checking on you every day. I'm like,
Did I give you one?
I don't think you did. You you mailed them. I never got one. Thanks a lot, George.
Sorry, I gave them out to the cast.
But the Christmas thing, I know Christmas is big because you are a huge collector of.
Hi, I'm George Dvorsky, and welcome to the Artistry of the Nativity. The Dallas Arboretum in the DeGolyer Mansion, we have over 500 nativity sets. The first set is from the Harrington collection, and I actually have 300 of my own collection in this library. This is one of my favorites. My mom actually crocheted this, and one Christmas morning I opened this box and it said, "Love you, George, love Mom." And I opened it and she had crocheted a nativity set for me, so this was one of my favorites. I started collecting in 1978, and in the past 37 years I have accrued over 300 of them.
Oh my God.
I used to love, as a kid, one of my favorite memories, my dad got home from work around 6. Well, in Pittsburgh, it would get dark at 5:30 around Christmas time. I would lay in front of the Christmas tree, and my mom had a stable that had a music box that played Silent Night. So I'd turn all the tree lights on, lay underneath the tree, and just stare at the nativity set and listen to this music box playing Silent Night before my dad came home from work. Well, and on Christmas Day, we had this gorgeous creche in the front of the church. So after we'd open our gifts and go to church, my mom would take my siblings out to the car while my dad took me down to the front of the church, and I would just stand there and stare at. They'd have to drag me out of the church.
Wow.
I've always been fascinated
Just
by
drawn to it.
the art of the nativity. So and remember that title because we were doing. So my first job, that Fiddler on the Roof tour that we talked about 3 hours ago, I went. It's been 40 years, folks. We're only up to 1987. Sit back.
Right.
So my sister and my mom came to see the show. We were closing on December 23rd. I didn't want to put a Christmas tree up in my apartment because I thought that'd be too much to take down.
Sure.
I want something I could just pack up and go.
Yeah.
Well, my sister loves antiques, and she was in this antique shop. I didn't want to go in, so I thought, what are they doing? So I walk in, and on the counter, the first counter I see, is it's a pewter archway that was hand painted like watercolor, so it was very light colors, and then a Holy Family, Mary holding the baby and Joseph in pewter. It was 3 pieces. I thought, that's perfect. I'll buy that for my Christmas decoration in my apartment. Well, that was in 1978, and in 40 years, I bought over 300.
Wow.
I look, when I go to cities, I look for really unique, special ones. So when we were in Dallas, and my idea was to one day display them in some hall or something from Thanksgiving to the Epiphany, which is January 6th, and have people just make a donation to come see them.
Yeah.
So I told this to a friend of mine who lives in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, and her sister-in-law works for the Blind Association. She said, what if we displayed your nativity sets with the Blind Association? I said, that would be great. So I wrote a cover letter, because they do Christmas in Bethlehem every year. While the sisters of the Moravian church, they had a house that the last one moved out and they were going to turn into a historical landmark. And they said if we could put some nativity sets in there. So I decorated the entire house with my nativity sets. And that was the first time in all those years I had them all out of the boxes at the same time. So I took pictures of each one.
Good.
Jump ahead a year to doing Chitty Chitty Bang Bang with you. We're in Dallas, and I go to visit a friend of mine who lived in Boca Raton. I'll never forget this because it was 103 degrees on July 3rd. Do you remember how hot it was in Dallas?
So hot. I couldn't believe it.
I got to, even the car, I was
You
sweating.
could barely go outside. Yeah.
No, and I was sweating with the air conditioning on.
Yeah.
And I got there early. I thought, I'm not going to sit in the car. I'm too hot. So there was a Christmas store at the end of their block called the Noel Christmas Shop. I went in there and I was walking around and just trying to cool off because I was early. And the woman keeps talking to me and she said, may I help you? I said, look, I'm a nativity collector. So I'd like to see your nativity sets if you have any. And she said, we don't have that many right now. It's July. I said, great. She said, but you should contact the Dallas Arboretum. They do the art of the nativity every 3 years. I thought, oh, good for them. And I said, I live in New York City, so thank you. She said, no, you wish. I said, thank you very much. Go to my friends. They say to me, you should contact them. I said, for what? To what end? So I go back. We do the show that night. I get home from the show, check my email. Here's the address for the Dallas Arboretum. And I thought, what do I have to lose? Hi, George Dvorsky here. I collect nativity sets. Send. The next morning, I don't know if you remember this, we saw the show last night. We know who you are. This could be a coup for us. Do you have pictures? Well, I had just taken 400 pictures and I sent them the link and they asked me, I've been there now 3 times. Every 3 years they do it. So I've driven my collection. They call it the Dvorsky collection.
Oh my God, I love it.
There's a book. They photograph them and sell this book called the Dvorsky. You can find it online. Right now, I haven't bought one in a while because I've got so many. I need them to be really specific and unique.
Right.
I have one that's all rubber ducks. I have one that's made of paper. One that's made out of bottle. I actually have Coke bottles that say King 1, King 2, King 3, Jesus, Maria, and Jose, and Angel.
That's so cool. That's so cool. I love that. Nativity sets.
Mr. Mushnick collects nativity sets.
I know. I wrote in my notes here, I wrote nativity sets. I remember when you were making snowflakes. George, you have so many devoted fans. That's one thing I knew traveling around the country with you. I remember I felt like you had fans everywhere, all over the place.
This is how I feel. Thank you for saying that.
It was so unbelievable.
If it weren't for those people, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. I mean, they come to see the shows. So I find I like to talk to people after the shows and be kind to them because they pay my salary.
I want to dig in. The first thing I want to talk about is I know that you have recently started digging out and creating a YouTube channel.
A friend of mine from London emailed me and said, I'm not going to mention who the person was, had put stuff on YouTube. They said, I'll bet you have better stuff than that. And I said, I've got videotapes, hundreds of them. I'm sure I've got stuff on there. He said, why don't you do this? Do your own YouTube channel, organize the videos that are already on that you're tagged in. I didn't know this. There were over 60 videos on YouTube already that I was tagged on, whether they were a B-roll of some of the shows I've done, or I've done the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade 4 years. Those were all on YouTube. So you organize them into playlists. And then because of our stay-at-home orders, I have a VCR DVD transfer unit.
Uh-huh.
So I sat here for a month and went through hundreds of VHS tapes. So there are now 120, I believe, videos on my YouTube channel.
I can't believe I've never looked. I can't wait to stalk you because I've stalked you on YouTube. I'm going to just go full disclosure. I've definitely stalked you, especially after I knew I was going to be covering you. I was like, how many? And I remember stalking you with Abandon, but the stalking capabilities weren't as good, 10 years ago. But I can't believe I didn't know about this. So I am totally.
Well, I didn't know how to do this, and they said, don't put them all up. Do one a day to keep coming back. So right now, I started it in March.
Uh-huh.
Right now, I have through June. Every day there'll be a new video up.
Oh my! And how do we find this?
Just go on YouTube and put now. There are 2 George Dvorskys. Did you know this?
No.
There's a George Dvorsky who is a transhumanist. I don't know what that means. He's a scientist in Canada.
Okay.
He and I share the same birthday.
No way.
not the same year. He just turned 50 this year.
Oh, good. So he's
But
older than you.
we've gotten in touch and we are friends now through Facebook. But if you put in just George Dvorsky, it'll come up, both of us, but put in George Dvorsky, actor, singer, and you'll get some of the videos, and you can subscribe to my channel. So it'll always tell you when there's something new. When new content pops up, you'll get a notice.
I will subscribe. I can't wait to subscribe to your YouTube channel. I'm so excited. Now, speaking of YouTube, now let's talk a little bit about your new web series.
I was asked to do a pilot for a web series called From Here to Hell's Kitchen. It is described as a gay Sex in the City. It's a gay romantic comedy.
Uh-huh.
I play the older person, of course, who mentors a younger guy who is roommates with a female casting director who's a ball buster.
Huh.
So it's about the three friends and their love lives, relationships in Hell's Kitchen in New York. We filmed it last May and August. They finally edited it and it's up online. There are 10 more episodes they've written, but because of the pandemic, we've shot nothing.
Oh.
They're asking people to watch it to see if there's interest. Would you want to see more? And they're saying that this is not really a pilot. It's an introduction to characters.
Okay.
You can get to know who the three people are. But it's called From Here to Hell's Kitchen. Now, I'm going to warn your patrons.
Okay.
It's not Daddy Warbucks. Not Moshnick.
Okay.
It's more like Harold and the Full Monty. You saw more of me and Monty than you do on this. But as Maureen Moore, who's my coach and my friend, said,
Yeah.
You sensationally blew your squeaky clean image. That's all I'll say.
Oh, good. Okay, good. I can't wait. Now I gotta go.
Hey, Suze, tell Mark to switch the meeting with Chanel to Monday at 11 and not 2. I don't want them tipsy and tired after lunch when I see her pitch. All right, I'm going into the meeting now. Yeah, talk tomorrow.
Lynn and I always used to laugh about, especially like when we did the Full Monty, she was so excited that people received it as well as they did. They loved it, and I think our audiences definitely like to get a little naughty sometimes. So they'll probably love this.
I will say, because I've done that show twice, I've never had, the only time I had that much fun on stage was doing The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas.
Yeah.
Because those kind of comedies, they're a little bit bawdy and shocking.
Yeah, they're fun.
The audience is so shocked by it. You feed off of that and it makes it more fun. Like the end of Monty, the way the audience cheers like it's a sporting event.
It's unbelievable.
It's thrilling to perform in those kind of shows.
You've got so much history in the city and so much history with the business and what we're going through now. This is kind of a serious question, but when you think about going forward, like when we do open back up and when we do get back to it, what do you think it's going to take? I mean, what do you think is going to need to change for us? And I know the specifics of cleanliness and that kind of a thing. What do you think's ahead?
It's interesting to me how people are concerned about the audience and how they can social distance the audience.
I know.
How do you social distance a pit?
I know.
And how do you play an instrument when you're wearing a mask?
How do you quick change someone?
So that's the stuff that's going to have to be solved before an audience comes through those doors.
Yeah.
It's easy to social distance an audience. You won't get as much money. Of course, your revenue will be down, but that's not the difficult part. The difficult part is keeping the cast and crew safe.
Yeah, people don't realize the backstage ballet, what's going on back there.
You're on top of each other, and that's why the Broadway shows that were hit at that time, a lot of the people got sick because you are on top of each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a friend of mine was supposed to go direct Nonsense. And they said, can you space it so they're 6 feet apart? He said, no.
Yeah.
And even if I do the show 6 feet apart, what do you do when they need to do a costume change? Or
right. When they have to get dressed.
Mm-hmm.
you know, and it's going to be tricky. That's why I feel like, you know, we're going to need a treatment or we're going to need a vaccine that really works. And I think we'll get there, but I just think
that was my next thing. I think it's going to take really grabbing this thing by the bull by the horns and making sure there's a quick cure or a vaccine, because I mean, my best friend almost died of it.
Yeah.
In March. And he would call me every day from and his roommate was on a respirator, not a ventilator, he was on a respirator.
Uh-huh.
And I could hear this man in the background crying and gasping for breath. And because Danny is an actor and he knew breathing techniques,
Mm-hmm.
the doctor said that saved his life, because he would roll on his side just to be comfortable, and that would let his lungs expand, because they're now finding out that if you just put the patients on their stomach or their sides, it would help more than a ventilator. Well, who knew when it all happened? But this just breathing techniques and not panicking and staying still
Mm-hmm.
really helped him pull through and recover, because there was a day he thought he was a goner.
Yeah.
And it affects now with these kids getting Kawasaki disease symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much still unknown about it. And it's funny because I spoke to someone in Albany, actually, from the Department of Labor.
Mm-hmm.
She said, "What do you do as an actor?" She said, "Oh." And I said, "What?" She said, "It's going to be a while." I said, "I know. I think
we all know.
Theater will be the last thing to come back, because they got to figure out how to do it.
Yeah.
To keep everyone safe until there is a vaccine or this thing is totally wiped out."
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
But, and it is the backstage. We're so close to each other, you know, and also, like, you know, on stage, there aren't a lot of jobs where you have to kiss your coworker, you know, and things like that.
Even as small a space that you have, Johnny, which is that theater's so wonderful. Even some Broadway shows, you're even tighter.
Mm-hmm.
Because you've got those stairways to run up and you're running into people and grabbing things that they just touch. I mean, there's no way you can stay safe backstage.
Yeah, as grand as the front of houses are on Broadway, I'm shocked sometimes at the backstage. It's like people, I don't think, realize how tiny and tight it is back there.
I was stunned because, like I said, my training was at the Pittsburgh Civic Light Opera, which we performed in Heinz Hall, which is just immense. And enormous dressing rooms. You took an elevator down to the stage level.
And it was like a maze to get to all the dressing rooms, and it's unbelievable.
The 46th Street Theater, where Whorehouse was, the guy that played our sheriff caught a mouse in his Roach Motel. He had a Roach Motel on his dressing table, and he caught a mouse because he was in a room probably the size of one of the bathrooms at the Mac-Haydn, with, you know, squished in there. That was the star dressing room. And people said, I mean, backstage, it's not glamorous.
And how many flights up was your dressing room?
Yes.
6, 5?
It can be 5, 4, and 5. They put the ensemble up there.
Yeah, that's rough.
Very.
It's rough. Well,
so until they can figure that out, I wish I had the solution. I could make millions of dollars if I said, "Here's how you do it." Who knows how we're going to do it?
Yeah. But we'll do it.
Yes.
We're going to do it. What are you eating?
Too much carbs, too many carbs.
Carbs? It's all carbs?
All carbs. Pasta. Okay. And candy. Because of Easter. Okay. Could we take a pause? I know it's fast.
Yeah.
Cadbury mini white chocolate eggs.
Had them. Love them. And
no one at the CVS on 6th Avenue bought Easter candy. I got 10 bags at 90% off.
You love your candy, man. Yeah.
I know this is horrible to say. No, I'm surprised I don't have diabetes. I eat more sugar than anybody I know.
Sugar and carbs. It's your fuel. It's your top fuel.
Love white chocolate.
All right. Second question. What are you wearing in quarantine? Talk about your daily costume.
I just said this. When John called to set this up, I said, "Oh, I got to stand up. Pardon my underwear." You get out of the shower, you put underwear on, and you put your t-shirt. Yeah. So I'm sitting. Yes, folks, I've got Hanes. They're gray Hanes boxer shorts.
Now, is that kind of on the regular? Like, are you just a t-shirt and underwear?
Yeah, unless I go outside, that's what I wear around the house.
Yeah, I'm sweats and a t-shirt. That's pretty much, and slippers. I've actually worn out my slippers, I think. Because I've put on my sneakers like maybe 10 times since March 7th. Are you quarantining with anyone?
Nope. I live
You're not.
alone.
That was question 3. All right. Question 4 is, what do you miss the most? If you had to say one thing that you miss the most since this all started.
I'm a very hugging people. I'm a very tactile person.
Yeah.
I love to touch my friends and hug them, and I'm not.
Yeah.
I mean, even Dan, my friend who almost died, I've been spending time with him, he and his wife, because his wife has an illness also, ALS, which is a whole nother thing. So I've been going up and helping them, and we don't touch. You know, I touch her to help get her around, but we don't hug, and we wear masks. It's
It is.
bizarre.
It is strange. Like, I haven't touched another human since March, and we had just finished our open calls. So it was a week of, we were doing what we called the Corona hug. Then we were distancing already down there. But honestly, I haven't hugged or touched another human since March 7th. If you had something to say, this is the last thing, a little bit of words of wisdom or some advice that you can give to like all your fans and to all of your fans here at the Mac, what would you tell people right now to keep them encouraged and keep them buoyant?
That without them, there is no live theater. As much as we want the theater to come back, we will need you as much as you need to see these shows, because without an audience, why do it? So keep the faith, stay safe. They're going to figure this out, and you'll be back in those seats, and we'll be back performing for you soon.
Yeah, it's so true. There is no theater without an audience. What was it?
Otherwise, it's not live. You
Yeah,
know,
man,
think
well-
about stream, you know, doing Zoom thing. That's not theater.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true.
You want to be. We need a live audience sitting there watching what you're doing to make it live theater.
Yeah, we need the message to receive, and we need the feedback, and we need the interference, you know, when we can't go on and people are laughing. And
There's nothing like it.
no, it's the best.
Never know how much I love you. Never know how much you care. When you put your arms around me, I get a fever that's so hard to bear. You give me fever. When you kiss me, fever. When you hold me tight, fever. In the morning, fever of the moon nights. Everybody's got the fever. There is something you won't know. Fever isn't such a new thing. Fever started long ago.
And there you have it, my interview with George Dvorsky. What a blast. Georgie, thank you for taking the time to sit down with me and chat. Don't forget, everybody, if you donate to the Bright Future Fund and mention George Dvorsky, his proceeds are going to Project ALS this week. And if you can, hit like, share, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel. In the meantime, stay safe, stay healthy, and stay hopeful.
Fever, his missus. Oh, Daddy, won't you treat him right?